After Times Now exposed the Choppergate web, the government has now taken note of the exposes. Sources are telling Times Now that the Ministry of Civil Aviation has taken serious note of the issue. A senior official will now study details of the case. Sources are also telling Times Now that the ministry wants to ensure that such incidents of substandard choppers being procured does not recur. A formal note also is likely to be moved next week on this issue. Madhav Das Gopalakrishnan is on the phone line with more details. Yes, Madhav.
Well, yes, the Ministry of Civil Aviation taking very serious note of Times Now's report yesterday about the entire substandard choppers of Westland that were in fact used. Clearly, the ministry says that it wants to ensure that there is no such incident that has ever occurred again of substandard aircraft being procured and being pushed into service. And that's why, in fact, a senior official of the ministry will be studying this entire matter to look into the various loopholes and really to see how such substandard aircraft were procured in the very first place and, in fact, to prevent such incidents from occurring in the future. Clearly, of course, a number of incidents that took place as far as the Westland 30 choppers were concerned, and although the aircraft was grounded in the early 90s, clearly the ministry will once again look at particularly after the reports that were revealed from the declassified documents that Times Now had put out, which showed very clearly how the government was arm twisted into buying these choppers. Clearly, the ministry is saying that it wants to ensure that such incidents don't occur in the future.
Now, right, Madhav, now that's not all, is it? Because Times Now's investigation essentially has revealed that the 1985 purchase of these choppers was actually related to the arms deal of 2012, whereby Christian Michael was actually paid money or bribes through a buyback.
Well, that's really the question at this point of time, because although Christian Michael may have taken that money from Westland, what sources here are saying is that there is no proof to conclusively establish that that money which was paid by Westland was actually received over here as far as the buyback of choppers were concerned. They do admit that there were attempts to buy back these choppers, but certainly nothing has taken place on ground. Whatever choppers were sold in 1999, after that there has been no sale of any of these choppers, and 10 of these choppers still very much property as far as Pawan Hans here in India is concerned. So clearly, although there may have been attempts, clearly, of course, that did not take place on ground. And in that light, certainly, of course, it would have to be seen really what actually transpired as far as that attempt was concerned.
Now, Madhav, we've also spoken to the former DGCA at the time who actually was responsible for grounding these choppers. And he has said in no unequivocal terms that these choppers were faulty. They had problems with their engines. And despite the trials which were done, and that was communicated to the then Rajiv Gandhi government, the government went ahead and bought these choppers.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, clearly, of course, as far as the officials of Pawan Hans that we have spoken to, as well as the DGCA, as well as several other ministry officials, they had repeatedly warned the government as far as these particular choppers were concerned. But clearly, of course, what these documents reveal is that the UK government had threatened that as far as the aid is concerned to the government of India, that aid could perhaps be cut if the Indian government refused to take these choppers in the form of the Commonwealth grant. And that is really the big issue, really whether the government of India really compromised the safety of several of not just passengers but also pilots by actually pressing these choppers into service when it knew that there were several things actually that were wrong with this aircraft.
Now, also, Madhav, when the trials for this chopper were actually conducted, the man who conducted these trials actually went to Rajiv Gandhi's office. He was asked for an opinion, and he categorically said that he felt that these choppers were not airworthy. Despite those warnings, the then government was actually arm twisted in the name of a grant from the Commonwealth to accept these choppers.
Well, yes, that's exactly what we've been saying. Clearly, of course, as far as the government is concerned, there were a number of warnings, the number of incidents that took place even after. But despite that, these choppers continued to be used for several years. And it was finally only after the Rajiv Gandhi government fell and really that there was a Janata Dal government in place. Clearly, it was only then that this decision was actually taken of grounding these choppers, because there were several incidents, including one involving a VIP in which the landing gears of the choppers actually collapsed in Bokaro while it was landing. So clearly, there were several such incidents, in fact, several fatal incidents that actually took place before, in fact, the chopper was finally grounded. And really, of course, end of the day, it was about the 20 choppers that were there were grounded within just a few years of their use. So really, what was the use of actually taking all these choppers from the UK, despite the fact that it was not just unproven, but also there were several warnings that these were aircraft of a substandard quality.